Hello, you guys. Welcome to another episode of Virtual Tween Baking. It is the month of March, and this month we are making chocolate chip banana bread. So you guys will find all sorts of good stuff in your baking kits this month, including 2 overripe bananas, which means that that's what the black spots and stuff are on those. If your bananas don't have the black spots, that's totally fine. They will still work, but this is a good recipe to use up kind of older bruised bananas. They make for good banana bread. So in each of your kits, you'll have 2 bananas. You're gonna have 2.5 tablespoons of vegetable oil. You will have a teaspoon of vanilla. You will have 2/3 cup of sugar that I have measured for you. You will have 1 1/3 cup of flour that I have measured for you. I gave each of you guys a little bit of salt, so we're just gonna do a pinch of salt. You're gonna have 2/3 teaspoon of baking soda, and finally, last but not least, we will do 2/3 of a cup of chocolate chips, which to me is the best part. I mean, you can make regular banana bread, but if you have the option to add chocolate chips, of course you're gonna add chocolate chips. So let's jump right into step 1, which is to preheat our oven to 350 degrees. Mine is currently preheated, and then we're gonna take also these loaf pans I have provided for you, and we're gonna give this a spray with some cooking spray. If you guys have like a little bit of vegetable oil or even butter, just rub a little bit on the inside. If you don't have that and you don't spray it, it's not the end of the world, but this will just help it come out of the tray later, or I mean of the pan later when we are ready to eat it. So it just kind of makes our lives a little bit easier in the end. All right, so I'm gonna put that aside for right now, and now we are going to jump into step number 2. Okay, so step number 2 is, in a large bowl, mash your bananas well. So, easy enough, we're gonna peel our bananas, kind of chuck them in there and mash them. And you can mash them with a fork, which is what I'm gonna do. Or you can mash them with like a potato masher, any kind of kitchen tool you have that mashes, you can mash these with. And we want to get them pretty mashed. I mean, if they're still if they're a little chunky or whatever, that's kind of fine. But I'm just gonna take my fork here and just start pressing them down and mashing them, kind of like you're making like baby food or something. We're just gonna get these nice and mashed, so they're nice and smooth, and we'll kind of evenly distribute through our banana bread. All right, bananas are mashed in this kind of like sloppy smooth consistency. So that means we are ready to go on to step number 3, which is we are going to add our 2.5 tablespoons of vegetable oil in our vanilla and our sugar. So I'm going to pour in my vegetable oil right into this banana mixture. We're gonna add our vanilla, which was a teaspoon of vanilla. I still have to measure that out. I'm just gonna do about a capful, but you guys will have it pre-measured in your kits. And we are going to add our sugar, which I have measured for you. And I am just going to dump that right in. And now we are going to kind of stir this around and kind of continue to mash it and get it all mixed together. And that's one of the great things about this recipe is it's pretty much a 1-bowl recipe, and you don't really need any really fancy tools to make this. You pretty much just mix it all in a bowl, which are the best recipes. All right, so this is pretty much mixed. It smells really good. It smells like pretty much like banana and vanilla. And you can see I still have some like little chunks in there, but that's fine. As long as we don't have any like big pieces of banana, we should be totally fine. All right, that is good to go. So we are going to now move on to step number 4. All right, step number 4 is we're going to add our flour, salt, and baking soda. It says you can sift all 3 together if you'd like. And then we're just gonna mix the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. So if you want, you can pretty much just dump them into this bowl. I'm gonna choose to put the dry ingredients in a separate bowl and just whisk them together, and that is just gonna help to get them evenly mixed together. So I'm doing our flour, our 2/3 a teaspoon of baking soda, and I'm gonna do a pinch of salt. All right. So now I'm just gonna take my whisk, give these a stir so they're all mixed together. This is just a way to ensure that I'm not gonna have like one big clump of salt or baking soda. We're just making sure it's all kind of pre-mixed before we add it to our wet ingredients. Okay, so that looks good. I'm just going to now pour it into our banana oil mixture. And it says mix wet and dry ingredients until they are just blended. Do not overmix. So I'm gonna mix these. I'm just using a fork to do this. If you wanna use a spatula, you totally can. And maybe that's probably the best way to do this. I'm just gonna start off by mixing it with a fork, and then I'll probably switch to a spatula because that will help me to more easily scrape the sides of the bowl. But it's coming together. I'm grabbing my spatula here just to scrape the edges of the bowl. Make sure all those dry ingredients are mixed in the wet ingredients. So it's just basically forming this kind of looser ball of banana dough. All right, that looks good. And the recipe specifically says not to overmix it, so I'm gonna leave that. And we are going to move on to step number 5, which is lastly, we're going to add our chocolate chips and we're going to stir them until just combined. I'm actually gonna leave a couple chocolate chips aside to kind of dot on top once we put this into our loaf pan. And that'll make for like a prettier finished appearance. So I'm going to pour these in, and I'm just gonna save a little bit here to dot on top. So again, I'm just kind of press and fold these chocolate chips in, not overworking this batter too much. Making sure that all the chocolate chips are spread out evenly, and I think we're in a good spot. So now all we have to do is transfer this into our greased loaf pan here. Easy enough. I'm going to kind of spread this out evenly so it goes to both ends of the loaf pan. All right. Gonna get that last little bit off my spatula, and those chocolate chips that I had reserved, I'm now just going to kind of dot on top, which basically means to just place them and like press them down a little bit with your finger, and you can kind of evenly space them out, and this will just make for like a nice looking finish with chocolate chips kind of evenly spaced out when it comes out of the oven. And you don't need to press them down like all the way to the bottom. I'm just kind of putting them right on top like that and just giving them a little press, oops, so they stick in that dough. All right. Lovely. Okay, so now I'm going to put this in my oven. We're gonna bake it. The original recipe called for about 55 to 60 minutes. I've reduced the recipe a little bit to fit into a smaller loaf pan. So what I'm gonna do is start mine out for about 45 minutes, and then I will check on it. And when it's all done, I will let you guys know the final bake time, and I will put that in your recipe so you can reference that. So I'm probably gonna aim for about 45 minutes at 350 degrees. So I will see you when it's all done. Banana bread is out of the oven. Still very, very hot. I just pulled it out. It looks awesome. So altogether, my bake time was about 55 minutes. Yours might vary a little. So I guess in the end, we probably will shoot for between 50 and 60 minutes. And one way that you can test to see if it's baked through is just to do the simple knife test where you just take a clean knife, stick it in after it comes out of the oven, and it should come out fairly clean. There might be a little bit of like chocolate on there, but you don't want to see like raw batter on that. So if your knife comes out clean, you're baked through, you're good to go. And now we're just gonna let it sit and cool, and then I will be able to slice into it and enjoy it. And you can see those pretty chocolate chips that we dotted on top. They look so nice. So that was our 1 bowl chocolate chip banana bread. Easy enough, no egg, pretty easy recipe. So I'm gonna cut into this once it cools, and I will hopefully get to share it and enjoy it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will post a picture at the end of what it looks like once I slice into it. I hope yours turns out awesome. Thank you for watching Virtual Tween Baking and baking along with me this month. I will see you guys next month. Bye-bye.